Some images need just a little bit of assistance prior to the color separation process to help them color separate easily and more brightly, which in turn lets them image better on the final product, the t-shirt. Now, these guitars, for example, look okay. In fact, this file would be fine for things like offset printing and magazine advertisements, but for t-shirt printing, well, maybe they're not quite ready for prime time. Now, many people would attempt to adjust these by using a curve or a saturation adjustment. Let's try that here. Let's go to Image, Adjust, Curves, and attempt to brighten this a little bit. Well, the curves brightened it, but we've also lost a lot of color fidelity. Click Cancel. Now let's go back to Image, Adjust, Hue and Saturation, and try to add a little bit of color depth. Bring up the saturation, and well, we've done that, but it's really not what we're looking for. So click Cancel again. Now let's try to run the Quick Image Fix action. Now that's done much more to help the image as opposed to manually using the curves or the hue and saturation. To improve this further, let's run Brighten Define Image. And that certainly added that final pop. Now, there's one thing that you might need to keep in mind after running both Quick Image Fix and then Brighten Define Image on your artwork, is that the second action could possibly take away a little bit too much black. In the case with these guitars, it didn't, but upon careful inspection of your file, I would go to Image, Adjust, Curves, and if the black is just a little bit unblack, take the top handle and move it over a little bit, maybe to an input of 90% and an output of 100. And this will restore any missing blacks that Brighten Define Image may have deleted. Let's click Cancel and move on to another file. It doesn't take an expert to realize that the image here lacks sufficient color information. Let's run Quick Image Fix and see how it responds. Now that brought back quite a bit of color fidelity to our file. Let's saturate it a little bit further by running Saturate Enhanced Image. And that got us that little bit of extra pop that we might need during the color separation process. One last thing we might want to try, and let's zoom in first, is to run Quick Sharp. Now as you can see, that brought out a lot of hidden detail within the hair. That's going to help an awful lot during the color separation. It also brought out little details like the sawdust on the arm. And if we go back into the history palette between states, you can see the difference. With t-shirt color separation, we need to exaggerate these little details as much as possible without going overboard. Let's go on to another file. I've opened up a picture of Granny here just to demonstrate exactly what Brighten Define Image is really for. Now, if you look at her purple scarf, there's a lot of black shadow area in here and down in here. Although this is natural to the image, it's probably going to not look that great if you were to separate this for a t-shirt. So Brighten Define Image removes a lot of this undesirable black shadow detail. Let's try it here. And bang, in one click, it's gone. And that's exactly what Brighten Define Image does. Keep that in mind when you're looking at your next piece of artwork to modify for color separation. Here we have a piece of artwork of relatively low quality. although it was given to me as a high-resolution JPEG, let's zoom in and take a look. As you can see, it's very grainy and also lacks sufficient color. So the first thing we need to do when we see this graininess is go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and for now we're going to choose a radius of 1.0 and click OK. This got rid of that graininess within the file. The next thing we need to do is run QuikSharp. That got a little clarity back. Let's zoom out. Next on our list, we'll run Quick Image Fix. Now that seemed to help quite a bit. Now we'd like to gain a little bit more detail within the hair, maybe some color within the hat, and other areas. So let's run Brighten Define Image. And that also seemed to help. Last thing, let's run Saturate Enhanced Image and just click once to add that little bit of extra color. I think we're really getting there with this one. About the only thing I'm concerned with now is the skin. It doesn't quite seem right and has a little bit of a yellow cast to it. So let's go to an adjustment that I very rarely hear people talk about. Let's go to Image, Adjust, Selective Color. Choose Reds. And now we're going to bump up the cyan just a little bit, the magenta to about maybe 40 or so. We'll bring down the yellow, and the black will bring up just a touch. And let's click the preview on and off. And as you can see, that helped add a great deal of saturation to the skin, and it also brought our reds back to where they can separate correctly. This file is now ready to color separate. I highly recommend that everyone experiment with selective color as often as possible. Now let's toggle back and forth between our original and enhanced file. A substantial improvement, to say the least. Now, I could go on for hours and hours regarding obscure methods within Photoshop to improve artwork. However, QuikSeps Professional offers quite a bit, and we only have 2.5 hours to cover most of the actions, so let's move on.